Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man coming to you from What's Unknown. How is everybody doing tonight? Well, I tell you what, I didn't broadcast last night. I felt like I got ripped off. Gonna watch Trump's second part of his interview on Hannity and sat there and waited. And he put Trump up for, I don't know, 4 minutes and then went on to other subject. I thought, well, geez, you gonna come back with the other half, or was that it? What? Of course, nothing. So anyway, I'm over it. We'll see what kind of game they're all playing, Hannity and all of them, before this is over with, or when this is over with. Hey, Doc, how you doing? Tennessee, how you doing? Diane, nice to see you all. Did you get to see Andrew McCabe giving his little talk on CNN? That's what I put in my thumbnail on the title. On the fly, I watched him, how he's talking about his former colleagues and other people in the intelligence agencies are afraid that they're going to be unjustly incarcerated or unconstitutionally picked on some way. It's so awful. They've had, with his family, all their families, they've had torturous discussions. Oh my goodness. They're going to flee the country, planning on fleeing the country. What would you do? Would you stay here with this monster? I'm glad to see it. Sweaty people, just like what's his face, Weissman. I called him Mr. Sweaty Man. So I've been seeing other YouTube creators. Of course, I haven't posted a thumbnail in over a year saying the heat is on. But they show them all, and what they put on the thumbnail, they're sweating, and showing Jack Smith sweating, showing all of them, Comey, all of them. They're starting to sweat. They're starting to crack, and that's public. You know what's going on in private. Well, if you pay attention to the White House in private, Joe wins a Scrabble and all kinds of stuff. Plays ping pong and word games, wins all the games. Hey, Jetlag, how you doing? Hi, Doc. Hi, Gloria. Sherry. Debbie. Jersey Joe. Yeah, exposure is happening. So I enjoy watching that little clip. I've got so many videos, but I think I'm still going to get a copy of that and put it in my little archive. Remember Andrew McCabe? He's one of the first ones that Trump got rid of. They were all wondering. I think he got rid of Comey first, but McCabe was lurking, and they were saying, "Is Trump going to fire him because he gets his retirement in a month? Trump wouldn't be so cruel as to fire him when he's so close to his retirement." And I know this stuff's been dragging on. Back then I was saying, this what they did to Trump. This is when he first started his term. Back then it was patently obvious to anybody that was paying attention that they were trying to get rid of him. They were using unlawful means to unseat a sitting president. But they didn't just want to get the surface trash. They want to go down as deep as the swamp goes and pluck them all out of there. So for once, we don't have a politician who gets in, and the swamp, after a while, starts to feel like a hot tub. That's the old joke. Well, they used to say, what they used to call a sewer. DC was a sewer. And the old joke was they get elected, and after a while, the sewers start to feel like a hot tub. So we don't have that problem with Trump. He's not getting absorbed. Okay. Hi, B Charming. How you doing? Yeah. Yeah, I got a screenshot of the it wasn't X. It might have been X, but I thought it was a Facebook post. Mistrial. That's what I put in my highway petroleum. That's what I put in my thumbnail title. A mistrial. Well, if it happens, it happens. But that they may think of that as an easy way out. Mercan. I did everything I was supposed to do. You know, who knows? He may have been extorted, threatened. Who knows? Certainly rewarded. So, one thing I'll say real quick. Hi, Yvonne, is that the interviews I saw of Trump and his little snippets he puts out in Truth when he was on Turning Point USA in Arizona, Hannity, every time he said, what kind of country would we have if I ran around putting people in jail? If I went in and actually arrested Hillary, how would that look? What kind of a nightmare would we be living? Now, before you get too upset, keep in mind, he said, how would it look if we, okay? He used those terms. And he was saying it's got to stop. I think he said that at least at 3 or 4 different occasions over the past week. But what does the news keep pumping out? Trump muses about revenge. CNN had that, or MSNBC had that on one of their titles. Let me get some of my screenshots up. Yeah, CNN. Trump muses about seeking revenge on his enemies if elected. And there's Andrew McCabe. Torturous discussions with my family. Because, well, I for those of you who have been with me for a long time, hi, Wayne, how you doing? You will remember a video I did. And I said, well, I can go back in the Rumble archives and get that video. And it was about someone they referred to as a Frank Terror. Frank Terror. And that is a term used for an unlawful combatant. A very famous incident. And the video's gone. I said, gee whiz, that was early. Maybe I didn't know how to upload it right to Bumble. And YouTube took out my first channel, wiped out 300 videos. And that was one of them. Along with other videos I did on the history of Nuremberg trials and things of that nature. I don't know. Maybe they were a little too heavy for everybody in the platform community, not my viewers. So hi, KNS Cleanup. But I had a meme that I did that had a picture of what was his name? J. Edgar Hoover. And next to that, I had a picture of Tojo. Tojo, who was leader of the military in Japan, right? And I said, this man underneath Hoover, who headed up the FBI for decades and decades and was head of the FBI at the end of World War II. I said, this man did not arrest and prosecute, and underneath Tojo's picture, I put this man. And I have a friend, she's a Ruski, and she knew exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, that's right. Put thumbs up and everything I got. That was back on Facebook, and they took that down. They took the post down, but she knew exactly what I was talking about. There's a difference between military and civilian, and Trump is saying, I am not going to seek retribution. We are not going to seek retribution, but that does not mean retribution. Not retribution. Let's put it another way. Justice, okay? Because no matter which word we use, they love revenge. Trump actually used retribution, so they loved because it signals some kind of nefarious intent. And I even said, well, let's try the word reciprocate. Oh no, that's awful too. You want to tit for tat? Well, no. Let's just say justice. Because we all know no one is above the law, right? So I talked about clean hands. That Trump's got to have clean hands. I'm going to keep telling my story, but I want to put something in your all's minds. At the Nuremberg trials, Franklin Roosevelt was nowhere to be found. When you read about the trials, when you watch the movies of the trials, when you read old newspaper clippings, and when you read the history books, Winston Churchill is nowhere to be found. Stalin is nowhere to be found. Okay? Not even as witnesses. Civilians are nowhere to be found. So what does that tell you? The President of the United States, that was president during World War II, did not get involved in Nuremberg trials. Well, by the time they came around, it was Harry S. Truman. He didn't get involved in them. Roosevelt, when they were arresting NAZIs, okay, nowhere in any of the charging documents, nowhere in any of the complaints. He passed away just before the end of World War II, and Truman took over. Harry Truman did, through closed channels, call for the execution of Emperor Hirohito. And Douglas MacArthur was the Supreme Allied Commander of the Pacific, whatever his former title was, but he was also military governor of Japan. And he did not carry out that desire, I'll put it that way. Because I don't believe Truman had the authority to order the execution of Hirohito, but he wanted it done. And MacArthur decided that Hirohito would promote civility, end to hostilities, and help guide the nation towards a peacetime recovery. And he was right. Hirohito, for the first time ever, people heard his voice on the radio. And he told his people One, that he wasn't a god. He had to renounce his claimed status as a deity. But he also ordered his people to endure the unendurable and surrender and cooperate. And he lived to be very old. You can look him up. Emperor Hirohito. I don't think he hit 100, but he was in his 90s. My point being, there comes a point, especially in war, when the civilians have to let the military do their job. Tojo, on the other hand, was a military leader. He was the head of the military junta that ran Japan. And you can watch videos of him being tried. Actually, there's a YouTube video where he's sitting there and he had these round glasses, bald-headed with round glasses, where one of the defendants sitting behind him in court smacks the top of his head while he's listening to testimony. But anyway, he was executed, Tojo. He was tried and executed. So that brings me to the example of this. I see him called as a ferry boat captain, a merchant marine. What happened with him that I did a whole video on? I showed pictures of him. I showed a picture of the watch he was given at being a hero. Let me see who's jumped in here while I've been prattling on. Oh, that's interesting, Diane. One of Ouchie's men, huh? Hi, Kim. How you doing? Hi, Gary. Ha ha. Roberto. Yeah, Diane. Judge Mercani. He's trying to wiggle out. We'll get to that in a minute. Well, Dr. Burks was on. The scarf lady. She wants to test all the cows and all the dairy farmers for bird flu. So they're starting that crap up again. Did you all see Scarf Lady talking about how we gotta go out and swab the cows? What is it with them and cows? These liberals. Debbie, you use the KILL word. Do me a favor and take that out. Use capital I's for L's. Or just put a space in between. Leave the I out and put a space there. We can figure it out. Just shy of spectacular. That's good. Yeah, Scarf Lady was on some news program hollering for swabbing cows. But anyway, I'll give you a quick synopsis of what happened with this individual in World War I. He was had a merchant ship and was cruising around and saw a U-boat. So what did he do? He charged at the U-boat, okay, and attempted to ram it. This was 1915 or 1916. Well, the U-boat had to go into an emergency dive, and a couple of sailors got injured, and it was a close call. I mean, he wasn't trying to scare them. He was trying to ram them. Hi, Lone Wolf. How you doing? David, how you doing? So anyway, Oh, it was a big story. He was treated like a hero. They had parades for him. They had banquets. They gave him a gold watch, newspaper articles, and the German high command said, "Hey, he was an unlawful combatant." And that's against the laws of war. And we demand you surrender him to us. He's a criminal. And unlawful combatant, illegal combatant, or unprivileged combatant, belligerent, is a person who directly engages in armed conflict in violations of the laws of war and therefore is claimed not to be protected by the Geneva Conventions. Well, that's Wikipedia, so what do you expect? Claimed. No, he's not claimed. He does not have the protections of the Geneva Conventions. Just like the paid mercenaries, the Hessians, that George Washington ambushed after crossing the Delaware. They gave them no quarter. But anyway, this captain's name was Charles Fryatt, Fryatt, a British mariner, a British merchant seaman who was court-martialed by the Imperial German Navy for attempting to ram a German U-boat in 1915. Court-martialed, okay? He wasn't a member of the military, but that's how they handled it. And that's how they continue to handle such situations in times of war with an unlawful combatant, or a franc-tireur, or an agent provocateur. Charles Algernon Fryatt, December 2nd, 1872 to the 27th of July, 1916. Well, this is the anniversary of his X3 executions coming up, isn't it? He was a British merchant seaman who was court-martialed by the Imperial German Navy for attempting to ram a ship. When his ship, the SS Brussels, was captured by the Germans off of occupied Belgium in 1916, Captain Fryatt was court-martialed by German military law and sentenced to DEATH for, quote, illegal civilian warfare. He was executed by a firing squad near Bruges, Belgium. In 1919, his body was reburied with honors in the United Kingdom. So, no, I'm not cheering it. I'm not, saying anything. I'm pointing out that Trump is not going to be the one to straighten all this crap out. Just like Truman wasn't the one, Roosevelt wasn't the one, Stalin wasn't the one, Churchill wasn't the one. It was all done via the military. I had pictures of his ship before he rammed it, and as it was sinking when they towed it out and blew it to bits after they captured him. They got everybody off the ship, but that was part of the retaliation. Fryatt and his crew members, let's see. I'm gonna read about after they captured him. They had set up something. They were spying on him. They're keeping an eye on him. And when he pulled out of port, they knew where he was. When he was leaving, they used some light signals, take a mirror and flash a light and here he comes. Oh, so they had like 5 battleships around his ship. and they got everybody off, and they got him off there and placed him under arrest. Him and his crew. Fry and his crew was sent to civilian internment camp in Ruhlenbin near Berlin on July 16th, 1916. The Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf reported that Fryatt had been charged with sinking a German submarine. In reality, U-33 wasn't sunk, but the basis for the charge was the inscription on his gold watch from the Admiralty. That's when they had a big party for him and gave him a gold watch, and they inscribed on there what he did with the German U-boat. But he didn't sink it. But he did cause harm in that other U-boat captains would be trigger happy when confronted with merchant marine vessels, could have provoked the loss of civilian lives, okay? These sailors could have been injured or loss of life by his actions. So any number of reasons that the Germans did not want to let this go. So he was tried at court-martial by the Imperial German Navy. He was found guilty of being a frank terror and sentenced to death. The sentence was confirmed by the Kaiser. Okay, this was long before Hitler, long before the Nazis. I think in 1915, Hitler was wandering around a starving artist. But anyway, the only thing, Kaiser, that was when German was a monarchy before the Weimar Republic, and he just signed off on it, but he had no participation in the trial. At 1900 hours, Fryatt was executed by a naval firing squad within the harbor grounds. The execution was witnessed by one of the town's aldermen. He was buried in a small cemetery that was used for burying Belgian civilians executed after being convicted involving guerrilla warfare and one other charge. Now, this is going to be a Mountain Man quiz. And if you Googled it and see the word "please don't answer," don't Google it, because we just don't do that during Mountain Man quizzes. If you got it in your gourd, answer. What is the other thing? It's one word that this captain was convicted of that called for his execution. Guerrilla warfare and one word. Over 100 years ago. Hi, Dreamer. I agree, Gary. So I give you all a little time, and I'll keep going through this. So after the war was over, Germany had to endure an armistice that was horrible and led to World War II, led to the rise of power of Adolf in the late 20s. Okay. That's a close jet lag. Close. But what can I say? Don't goggle it, because that would be a violation of trust. Okay? Don't goggle it, because that would be a violation of trust. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to answer it. And we're dealing with it today. That's why I'm bringing this up. That's why I'm bringing this story up. This business of Trump saying that he is not going to do anything. We are going to be successful. We're not going to be involved in revenge. This is why I'm bringing this story up. This is why I made that video that's been erased 2 years ago, to show everybody how things operate. At the time, I had people in my chats who wanted to take things in their own hands. I was telling them not to do it, not to become an unlawful combatant. Listen to lawful military authority if they're ever activated on our soil, because you do not want to become an unlawful combatant. If you do not like the President of the United States, if you have TDS, do not become a agent provocateur. Okay, do not engage in unlawful psychological warfare operations. Okay, because psyops are considered a weapon. This is what happens to Frank Turour's guerrilla warfare, unlawful combatants. That's why I did the video. And it could be fairly said about many of the people involved in the abuses that have occurred to Donald Trump during his presidency, to his supporters during and after his presidency, all of the slanders, libel, the text message from one of the intelligence agents saying we're going to stroke out Trump, we're going to get him to stroke out. All those things, in my book, okay, my opinion, would qualify him to be a Frank Turour, to be a saboteur. And he was guilty. Hi, Araceli, espionage, that's a good guess, but he was guilty of two things: guerrilla warfare and something I'll give you another hint. I gave one earlier when I said about not Googling why. And my other hint would be, we talked about it a couple of days ago. And that's the two things that they have in the history books that qualified him. Well, let me give you a little more background here so you see how serious this was. As I was saying, after they lost the war, they had to deal with the armistice, and they had to review the case because the Germans lost the war. They lost World War I. They court-martialed him in 1916. Took about a year to catch him, over a year, and they executed him. And they had to review the case, because Germany had to deal with negotiating reparations, turning over anybody on their side that engaged in breaking the laws of war. So this review was part of that, hammering out these post-war agreements. So an execution notice was published in Dutch, French, and German papers announcing the death of Freyet. It is signed by Admiral Ludwig von Schroeder. A translation of the notice, which is where they did not relinquish their claim. What they did was just and right under military law. Okay, even though their they lost the war. And the Brits were mad because he was a celebrity. He still broke the law and was justly executed. It says, notice the English captain of merchant ship Charles Fright of Southampton, though he did not belong to the armed forces of the enemy. Remember that. He did not belong to the armed forces of the enemy. Attempted on March 28th, 1915, to destroy a German submarine by running it down. For this, he was condemned to death by judgment this day of the field court-martial of the naval courts. The field court-martial of the naval corps, and has been executed. Nothing mentioned about a Justice Department, nothing mentioned about the German version of the FBI, nothing mentioned about anything but the Army, okay? It was a ruthless deed that has thus been avenged, belatedly but just. And post-war review, they reiterated that same notice and the evidence, and they said the only thing they regretted was that they executed him too quickly because it was within hours of his guilty verdict. Okay, but other than that, they didn't give up. Okay, they didn't give up any of their rights under the laws of war. All right, I see some good. No, he wasn't naked. Public nudity and Gary said foul language. Okay, yeah, it was a good guess, Araceli. But I'll give you one last big hint. The word was used during this trial of Donald J. Trump by Trump's attorneys. And I keep saying repetition is the gets people to remember. And when I read this word, I remember it from 2 years ago when I did the story on Charles Friat and unlawful combatants. So, and I covered the word and discussed the importance of the word, how important it was and how it was going to play a role. And it is one of the two charges that this guy was executed for. And it was his trial and execution was upheld even after Germany lost the war and had to negotiate with the British government surrender and reparations and righting past wrongs. And no one could argue with them that they broke the laws of war. So I'll just do a da 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 dun 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 boom boom. Okay, let me see if I still have it in my banners. I can put it on the screen, and you guys will remember. Say, oh yeah. Well, let me see. Oh my goodness. Let me see if I can type it real quick. Oh, here it is. It's got the word in it. Let me just check before I put it up. See if anybody got it. Oh my goodness. Well, let me put it up for you. I made a banner and talked about it for about a half an hour. There you go. I even talked about how it's a Semper Fi. It has P-E-R-F-I in it. Fidelity, okay? A violation of trust, a violation of faith, perfidy. Remember that, folks? It was in one of my most very recent broadcasts. And Donald Trump's attorneys, the last motion that I heard they filed was for the charges to be dismissed because of perfidy. And I was saying that was a term primarily used in military law, Department of Defense, laws of war. Am I right or am I wrong, folks? So you read these over 100-year-old stories and documents about a high-profile celebrity captain given all these honors and then caught a year and some months after the act. Holy cow, Gary went to buy me a coffee. I appreciate it, Gary. He put some booms in there. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, perfidy. Perfidy is a military term. RICO was developed in the 70s, racketeer influenced and corrupt organizations. Okay, that's what that stands for. But it all plays in. There you go, Jersey Joe gave you some booms, Gary. Boom, boom, boom. And Rudy Giuliani helped sign. That's why when people are anti-Trump and come in to the channel, I want them to hear, stories like this, what I just told. I am a little perturbed that my video got taken down showing the whole history of Frank Terror's unlawful combatants. But, if you exercise that knowledge against a backdrop of what's happening today, you know what not to do yourself, okay? And you can look and see what the opposition, okay, is doing that may qualify them to be put in a position just like Captain Fryatt. He didn't fire a shot. Okay. And I believe if after he pulled his action, if he'd have laid low, they might have left him alone. But they made an international incident out of it. They rubbed it in the Germans' face. They had newspaper articles, a banquet, a gold watch inscribed with the event, made a big stink about it. And these generals, some of them were Prussian generals, and they don't screw around. They were like, listen, you're increasing the chances of civilians to be injured or killed by copycats, and something's got to be done. So, but anyway, they didn't back off. They tried to rub the Germans' faces, and they made sure they got him. But anyway, there's other ways besides running around battlefield or planting a BOMB or, there's other ways to engage in war. And keep in mind that psychological operations are considered weapons. Then you see a lot of people have exposed themselves to exactly what McCabe is worried about. I mean, if you look at his mannerisms, you look at his face during that interview, it says, help me all over it. Help me. He's afraid. He's not just coming up with some half-baked fear. I think it's probably the only time he's told the truth when he said that there were torturous discussions that him and his friends are running scared. Hi, Melvita. How you doing? So, I've seen people that learn terms, and they'll read perfidy in anything. But it is a very specific definition, and you violate someone's trust and cause harm. That's perfidy. Because that German submarine was not submerged, not trying to hide. It was on the surface, and probably the sailors getting some air or whatever. They felt safe because the laws of the high seas, merchant vessels have been identified. They're whatever, and then here this guy comes with the intent to sink the vessel and KILL everybody on board. Now, perfidy. So McCabe is sweating. Who else is sweating? Adam Schiff is sweating. They're all sweating. And it was fun to see the videos coming out about them sweating. And they're going to get desperate. But you know what? The rhinos aren't going anywhere. They're not just going to all of a sudden say, kumbaya. We still got them to keep an eyeball on. None of them are going to give up easy. None of them. That's why it's coming down to the only way to straighten this out. Now, we got to do our part and get Mr. T in there. We got to swamp the swamp. We've got to show that this nation has resolve. But that's not going to be good enough. But it's necessary. Necessary. It won't be enough, but it's necessary. Like a one tire for a car. That's not enough. But you better have it if you need 4 tires. So our job is that 4th tire, or 1st tire, or wherever you want to be in a lineup. It doesn't matter. We got to have everything together, all of our assets deployed. So our responsibility is to get out there and VOTE and get as many people as possible to go out and vote. And we have to organize our thoughts and understand our situation where we can communicate to doubting people what the reality is without coming across as someone who's not in control of their faculties. That's why I warn people to stay away from fantastic thinking or, mystical or sorcery or anything like that. The main thing we remember is armor of God. EO13848's already been activated. All these things have been activated. Now it's time for us to put it out there. The wants of the nation. We're a government run by the people, for the people. So we have to speak up, even if they want to stick their fingers in their ears. It doesn't matter, because the ones who will have to do it, the actual dispensation of justice, will be listening. I don't care if Adam Schiff puts his fingers in his ears and says, I can't hear you, when we're all saying, we want Trump, we want Trump, we want Trump. It's those generals and combat operations commanders that are going to hear us. So we can't run this vehicle with 3 tires. Yeah, now what's the story on Biden? Did he do the toddler squat? Or did he just try to sit down when he wasn't supposed to? I'm glad I didn't do a story on that, because a lot of people jumped the gun and said, he made the way that video was put out there was, looked like certainly he had some kind of episode in his drawers. But even if they're wrong, and he didn't, it draws attention to him, because we know for a fact that has happened to him in the past. Here's a couple of odd stories, and odd in a way that points to things coming full circle. I'll put it that way. I had no idea this was going on. A mistrial has been declared in Charlottesville, Virginia, after a jury couldn't reach a verdict to convict a Unite the Right attendee for carrying a tiki torch at the 2017 far-right rally. What? This is Andy No reporting. 2017, the Charlottesville event, that was one of the first hoaxes where they claimed Trump praised members of the Klan, which was a complete lie that a lot of them try to repeat to this day. Knowingly lie. But I had no idea this was even happening. 2017, we're talking 7 years, and this guy's on trial. Prosecutors said Jacob Joseph Dix committed a state felony by burning the tiki torch, which intimidated others. 3 jurors voted guilty, 8 said not guilty, and 1 did not make a decision. Prosecutor Shannon Taylor says she intends to take the case to trial again. What? They timed it for what? They timed it for the election. Somebody put in the comments, should have burned the Wendy's down. That's only a $500 fine. Somebody else said, seems to me like all these prosecutions are coming from one side. Weird how that works. So they got a 7-year-old case. They waited till the same time Trump's going through all these phony court cases to try to put this guy in jail for the Charlottesville hoax. And they spent every resource to get that jury as tilted as they could get that jury. And they still failed. Had at least 4 of them didn't want to play ball. So anyway, that brings us to breaking. Trump defense team in New York criminal trial has been made aware by Judge Merchan of a Facebook comment posted the day before trial conviction by a user claiming to be in contact with a juror. The comment is alleged to have said, "My cousin is a juror and says Trump is getting convicted. Thank you, folks, for all your hard work." So I got a screenshot of the actual Facebook, whatever post it is. And it's talking about a New York judge that's been appointed, and somebody put put a comment in there, and it's weird. I mean, I don't know how much more weirder things can get. But let me see. Here it is. The New York State Unified Court System. This is a Facebook post. Is talking about promoting diversity in the courts. The Honorable Jeffrey K. Oing, O-I-N-G. He came to this country when he's 4 years old from Hong Kong. And he's been approved in New York State as a judge for this Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month Diversity Dialogue. We are honored to have an opportunity to chat with the Honorable Jeffrey K. Oing, an Associate Justice of the Appellate Division, First Department in Manhattan. So they're going to interview this guy. I guess that's he's one of the judges that would be handling Trump's appeal. I don't know, or somewhere with all the crap going on in New York after Trump. And that's when somebody put in the comments about this diversity judge. Somebody put in there, is he part of the alphabet also? Then he's perfect. Nobody answered them. I think he got some thumbs up saying, oh, if this judge is part of the alphabet community, boy, he's great. Yeah, just what we need. Anyway, this person named Michael Anderson said, thank you for all your hard work against the MAGA crazies. My cousin is a juror on Trump's criminal case, and they're going to convict him tomorrow, according to her. Thank you, New York courts. That's the actual Facebook post. And then underneath that, the same person, Michael Anderson, says, now we are married. What is he talking about? His cousin? Married to his cousin? But then right after that is when a citizen called lopsided free speech said in response, well, you just implicated your cousin in a crime if what you say is true. It is against the law for a juror to discuss the case before it had ended. Thank you for shedding light on your cousin's actions. So they didn't put anything up after that. So yeah, mistrial. But that's not going to get Merchan out of the woods. Okay? He's, in my opinion, as a layman, he's knowingly breaking the law and abusing his power. Okay? And interfering with the election. And I think he's participating in a illegal psychological warfare campaign against the American people, causing division. Okay? All those riots, all those people who got punched in the face wearing a MAGA hat or sprayed with mace or harassed or their houses damaged, vandalized, you can trace it all back to people like Merchan and his supporters. Now, maybe he's playing a role to help let people do what they're predisposed to do for evidence and to round them all up. I don't know. We'll find out. But I do know nobody's walking away from this. And when Trump says that he is not going to pursue people, he is telling the truth. But he does not say nobody will pursue these people. I'm going to reiterate that this is a multinational special military operation under RICO precepts, utilizing the laws of war. some of the people that we've seen breaking the law will be subject to civilian courts, and the rest will be military courts. Trump is going to be too busy making America great again, getting the economy straightened out, dealing with other nations. And a lot of what they're claiming is Trump's sole desires revenge. No, 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 no. It's going to happen. Justice. They can refer to justice as revenge if they want to, but justice is going to happen as a matter of law, as a matter of treaty. Ever since the Helsinki hissy fit, that's what I'm going to call it, the Helsinki hissy fit, when Putin described intelligence agency agents in Russia that got millions of dollars and also donated, I believe it was 300 million to Hillary's campaign. They broke Russian law on Russian soil. And Putin said, listen, we can do a joint investigation just like our treaty says. They went nuts. John Brennan had a hissy fit and started calling Trump a traitor. The Helsinki hissy fit. So these charges are just like with Captain Fryatt. They're going to come about whether the politicians, the civilian politicians, want them to or not. By law and by treaty. Honoring and enforcing existing treaties. Yeah, he had a good interview with Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, you know, there's going to be a lot of middle of the road people that are going to raise their eyebrows up when they listen to that interview. And I believe Trump even mentioned, he said, out of sight, out of mind. I just keep it out of my mind. Dr. Phil was saying, how do you handle it? And he went right down the line, how every major institution, the internet, the news media, the intelligence agencies, Hollywood, everybody was attacking Trump with garbage. And he went right down the list. How do you stand it? And Trump said, out of sight, out of mind. He knows he's safe. He knows who he's backed by, and we know who he's backed by too. And I'm not trying to wear it out, but that Captain Fryatt, it's a shame. He was married, he had kids and everything. But the bottom line was, you have military discipline. You have to protect. You have to foster discipline. You have to have the trust of your troops. And if you're going to let somebody just willy-nilly try to ram your ship and give you the finger and go around and celebrate and not do anything about it, you're not going to have very high morale in the military, and you're going to have trigger-happy people that are going to take out innocent civilian ships if you don't put your foot down. And this is the same situation here where Trump has said, we got to make sure this never happens again. And let me tell you something. There weren't any merchant ships trying to ram submarines after Fryatt got it. Okay? And we don't have to worry. We shouldn't be in a position where we have to worry that every time we turn the damn television on, there's a bunch of vitriol, lies, libel, slurs, insults, and insightful garbage coming over the television, where husbands and wives are arguing or not speaking to each other, children are rebelling, friends are arguing at work. We're going to make sure this never happens again. And how do you do that? You identify the problem, you get the culprit, and you punish the culprit. Or in this case, culprits in the plural. So I know I'm not saying to myself, "Oh, see, Trump ain't gonna do nothing." We gotta, we know what's up. We know what's going on. But if there's any other creators out there that listen to me that maybe we're going to put out a video, Trump ain't going to do nothing. All politicians are no good. Hey, this is a historic time, and it's our one shot. And we will not fail. But how do we succeed with the least human suffering and conflict and destruction of a civil society? This is the way we do it. We got to take the long road. We got to repeat things. We got to show over and over. We got to do moves and counter moves, just like with this idiotic Charlottesville hoax that they're trying to put some character in prison because somebody handed him a tiki torch that people set up in their yards all the time, and make little foo drinks with umbrellas and cook a pig or whatever and have a party at home. Okay, here's a tiki torch. Okay, who handed it to him? Who went and bought it? Who went and bought? Terry McAuliffe knew this stuff was going on. This was a setup, just like Jay, and then the other part is 6. Okay, it was the same damn thing, a setup. And these young kids fell for it. In Charlottesville, that's a university town. And they're all out there, hey, have a tiki torch. Yeah, have a tiki torch. Like he's got any ties to. Hi, Ann, how you doing? If I missed anybody, I apologize. That's right. Nobody's above the law, jet lag. Hi, Roland. Yeah, perfect. That's what, if you came in late, make sure you listen to the first part, because I talked about somebody who got the business for exactly that act over 100 years ago during World War I. So anyway, Clandestine posted last night on CNN, disgraced former FBI Director Andrew McCabe created the greatest Trump ad campaign imaginable. McCabe said he and other bureaucrats are concerned about Trump's, quote, retribution, and they might have to flee the country to avoid being detained. All the right people are extremely fearful of Trump's second term, which makes me want to vote for him even more. This also blasts a gaping hole in the anti-Trump narrative that Trump is pro-FBI and or is not going to drain the swamp. All the swamp creatures are scared of Trump because they know he is the greatest threat to their empire. So I agree. Hi, Dixie. me see. Just looking at the chats. Well, this thing about this juror coming out. That post was over a week old, and somebody just came across it. I don't know. Maybe it's what's his name? That judge getting out of it. A way to jettison the case, and they showed their hand. Okay, they actually committed the act. Now there's a lot of talk that technically Trump is not a felon because the judge has not formally entered the order in the books. Remember, we talked about a judge's options. Remember, I talked about Judge Engoron. I played a tape of him saying, well, I can always say the jury's verdict notwithstanding and come up with my own conclusion. Technically, well, not technically, in reality, that is where Trump's case is right now. Mercan can say, well, I don't think the jury deliberated properly, and I think Trump is innocent. And there you go, acquitted. Until he signs an order and formally enters that order, Trump's not a convicted felon. So on top of the other things that have been put before him, like perfidy, and now juror misconduct, how many things may be before him we don't know about? Jury tampering. What if the one holdout juror that they broke his arm to get him to sign a piece of paper came up and said, "Hey, what they did to me was wrong. They told me things they shouldn't be allowed to say to me." Who knows? So on top of this guy in Charlottesville, that's bizarre. I mean, totally out of the blue, bizarre. There's another guy. Where is he? The first person to breach the Capitol. I mean, who'd have thought? Here he is. Oregon man. FBI says he was among the first to breach the Capitol. Got sentenced yesterday. What? Oregon? He came all the way from Oregon. What's that, 3,000 miles? Well, diagonally, it could be more than that. Let me see what this is. He's dressed in some kind of, looks like a vest of some sort, not exactly combat gear, but anyway. Who in the world would think that he's got some kind of red beanie or hat on? I can't tell if it's a MAGA hat, but shows him in the crowd with a circle around his head. You think they get a better picture of him. But anyway, let me tell me how bizarre this is. Oregon man sentenced in J6 attack. FBI says he was among the first to breach the Capitol. Toledo, Ohio. An Oregon, Ohio man was sentenced for his role in January 2021 insurrection in Washington, D.C., the FBI says. He was among the first to breach the U.S. Capitol. Judge Trevor McFadden sentenced. His name is Joshua Coker, like Coke that you drink, ER, of Oregon, to 3 years probation and 8 months of house arrest for his conviction on an engaging in disorderly or disruptive conduct with intent to impede, disrupt, or disturb the orderly conduct of a session of Congress charge, court records show. He was also ordered to pay $500 in restitution. Well, it seems that he wasn't in jail and he didn't get any jail time. And the you know what? Trials have been going on for how long? And they get around to this little namby-pamby sentencing. The FBI says agents obtained cell phone data that tracked his cell phone at the U.S. Capitol during the RIOT. The agency also used facial recognition technology to identify Coker through surveillance footage and BMV records. Agents confirmed these identifications with people they interviewed at Coker's job at the Jeep Assembly Complex. Huh. Well, I thought he may have been a anti and then fa, but not if he's got a real job. But if he was a real Trumper, don't you think they'd have him in jail for 2 years, languishing? His superiors also confirmed his absence from work during the riot. They obtained search warrants for Facebook records in March that showed he sent a message that read, quote, "Just storm the Capitol building." So I find it bizarre that he apparently wasn't stewing in jail, and that they waited till this particular moment and then give him probation and a $500 fine. And he was one of the first ones. Well, Well, there's a guy, Alan Fuhrer. I might do a story on him. Might do a video on him. He writes for the New York Times. Where is that? Writing about Trump and Eileen Cannon, but it's getting late in the broadcast. And this is an ongoing situation with this attacks on Eileen Cannon, Clarence Thomas, and Alito. Watch those intensify. I don't know what's going to qualify as military breaches or civilian breaches. And I guess we'll talk some more. We'll see what happens through tomorrow. Unless something big happens, I'm going to broadcast Sunday, not tomorrow, unless something big happens. But there's stuff going on, as you all know, with Joe Biden approving them using our weaponry to strike inside Russia. Russia has warships steaming on the way to the Caribbean right now, are the reports. But if you all remember, last year I showed you all a brief video showing a warship at a dock in Venezuela, and there were reports that there were warships, Russian warships, and Chinese warships in Cuba. Okay, but now they're sending more apparently, or at least it's being reported by the mainstream media instead of some old man with a phone like me. So we'll talk about that some more. From November 23rd to the current day, 14 out of 31 American M1A 1SA Abrams tanks were destroyed in the Special Military Operations Zone. That's nearly 50% of the top-of-the-line Abrams tanks have been taken out, just like I said, shooting beer cans, really. And I'm not saying that to make fun of it, anything. And one thing that Trump said during his interview with Dr. Phil, something Americans need to hear. Actually, everybody around the world needs to hear. Trump said, you have to be very strong. You're fighting off evil forces, and they're very smart forces. There are people who control Biden. They are very smart and energetic. You have to be smart and have a certain confidence, but you need strength. How many other ways can he say it? Evil forces controlling Biden, okay? Very evil and very energetic. Dixie, how you doing? Dinesh D'Souza. He posted something. I took a screenshot of Trump the other day where Trump called for the the other part is 6 committee to be indicted. Okay, and it's true. Indict the unselect committee for illegally deleting and destroying all of their, quote, findings. And it's just getting to the point where it's so obvious and so rank and open corruption and deceit, all but the most rabid TDS freaks are hanging on. So anyway, let me see. Just see what's going on with the chats real quick. I want to thank you, Gary, for helping sponsor tonight's program. Broadcast. I say broadcast because program is what they do. Television programs. Okay, I don't program people. I don't television. I broadcast. So I want to thank Gary, and I want to thank Mike and Bev and Lone Wolf and Zaza and Hilarious too, Miss Mendersu, cameraman, all helped this month for the month of June. I appreciate it. And everybody else that's helped me on Buy Me a Coffee, I do appreciate it very much. Man, I wish I could find that video I did on that Captain Fryatt and the history of unlawful combatants, going all the way back to the Hessians and George Washington crossing the Delaware and wiped them all out. Nobody got taken prisoner. Nobody got put on trial. They were just where they shouldn't be with weapons with one intention. Okay? And something for everybody on the left to think about that's still hollering about Ukraine. Report, former Ukrainian Defense Minister Reznikov, who is involved in large-scale corruption along with his entourage, is now a U.S. citizen. There he will be able to use the money he looted during the war. No one has imprisoned him or will imprison him as part of the, quote, fight against corruption in Ukraine. Somebody else taking suitcases full of money and gold bars and skipping. When the time comes, other members of Zelensky's gang also plan to go with the loot to the USA and Britain, where they already have real estate and the necessary documents for residents. So there's the tax dollars at work. They're fleeing from Ukraine, and you got McCabe sitting there crying that they've had some torturous discussions. And the other thing McCabe said, like I said, is one of the few times when most everything he was saying about Trump is true. He said about Trump that he does what he says he's going to do. Steve Bannon having to report to jail. We'll see. I mean, how many days we got between now? Trump has openly called on the Supreme Court to step in, not just on his case with Merchan. He is talking about lawfare as a principle, lawfare being used as a weapon. When you have these people that are knowingly misreading statutes, twisting statutes, torturing the law to fit into a certain square peg to fit in a round hole, that the Supreme Court's got to step in and do something. That might be the case with Bannon. Navarro's been in jail for 2 months. He's got 2 months left, I think. Yeah, Miss Sue. Eric Holder's given interviews also sweating. He not only defied a subpoena, him and Obama violated gun laws. Well, Hunter Biden, let me tell you about that. What I think about that. Joe Biden said he would not pardon Hunter Biden. Couple of possibilities. One, the fix is in. All they need is one juror. And the fact of the matter is, the statute, the law, so-called law, regulation, whatever you want to say, I've seen people pour whiskey down the sink, expensive stuff, and never touch a drop again. I told this guy, I said, man, last night you were walking 3 feet off the ground talking Swahili, you're having a good time, and here you are pouring it down, $50 bottle of whiskey down the sink. He said, I'm never touching it again. And you know what? He never touched it again. There are people that can do that. There are people who could take a pack of cigarettes, throw it out the car window, and say, that's it, I'm done. I'm never smoking another cigarette. And they don't. Hunter Biden could. When I signed that about the gun thing, I swore it off. I wasn't using it. I wasn't addicted. I was not going to use. All you got to do is say, have a couple of people on the jury say, yeah, I can see that. And he's off the hook. Or if he does get convicted, Biden doesn't pardon him, but he can do what's called commute the sentence. Commute the sentence. Just wipe the sentence out. Conviction stands, but the sentence commuted. He won't do a day in jail. And Biden can say, oh, I said I wouldn't pardon him. I didn't pardon him. We can talk about that some more, too. Yeah, Gary, that's right. That's what Trump is saying. What's jail compared to humanity? Not just the freedom of humanity, the survival. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about the Biden, the gun charge. I think Biden, most of us feel that Hunter Biden has been cooperating. And there's constitutional issues with the Second Amendment rights and what they can convict you of just by what the ATF dreams up in their head. Now, I'm not saying Hunter Biden should be treated, like royalty or outside the rule of law. I'm just saying it's unfair, and they look for every reason to take people's rights to keep and bear arms away from them. And it would take a high-profile person like Hunter Biden to be convicted and take it up on appeal that he should not lose his right to keep and bear arms because of a checkbox on a form. But I don't think it's even going to get to that. I think it's going to be a hung jury, and it's going to be the end of it. Am I playing? Debbie said, stop playing, grow up. Oh, I grew up a long time ago. Just grew about as tall as I'm going to get, and the only thing I'm going to do is get wrinkled up and go as long as I can, like everybody else in this big old world. But we'll see. As far as Steve Bannon having to report, we'll see. We'll see. Look for the attacks. They'll attack. Let me tell you, Sotomayor, Eileen Kagan, Ketanji Brown. This is their moment. They're either going to step up, because if they are dissenting and leave the tough decisions to the justices that are being attacked, like Thomas and Alito, okay, they're not worth keeping in office. I think that's something that can be handled on the civilian end of it. Impeachment. We can impeach judges. They don't have to be there for their whole lives. If they commit a high crime or misdemeanor, and if their decisions are at odds with the black letter law and deprives people of their rights, to me that's a high crime. At the very least, a misdemeanor. Deprivation of rights under the color of law. All right, folks, I appreciate you all spending your precious time with me. I want to thank you again. And like I say, I'll be up Sunday night. Unless something big happens, I won't be up tomorrow night. And we'll discuss some more of the things that are going on. And I hope you all have a great night. And I'll be seeing you soon. This is Mountain Man, over and out.